Subscribe for more HFY stories every week. Like if humans are the galaxy's weirdest species. The lecture hall fell silent as Instructor Volketh activated the holographic display. 300 aspiring xenobiologists leaned forward in their seats, antennae twitching, sensory organs dilating with anticipation. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. The infamous Human Integration Seminar, specifically the section on predatory species and their dietary habits. Now then, Volketh began, his voice carrying that particular tone professors use when they are about to reveal something deeply unsettling. We must address the behavioral patterns of apex predators. Observe. The hologram flickered to life. A Krillian sand hunter, all teeth and claws, tore into its prey with savage efficiency. Blood sprayed across simulated desert sands. Several students in the front row turned a delicate shade of green. One fliction student made a sound somewhere between a whimper and a wheeze. This, Volketh continued with the enthusiasm of someone who genuinely enjoyed making people uncomfortable, is standard carnivorous feeding behavior. Note the raw consumption, the lack of preparation, the absolute brutality of, "Oh, come on. That is nothing." Every head in the auditorium swiveled toward the back row. There, slouched in a seat clearly not designed for his bipedal frame, sat Marcus Webb, the human exchange student, the culinary specialist, the one they had all been warned about. Volketh's eye stalks contracted. "Excuse me," I said. Marcus stood up, grinning in that uniquely human way that showed far too many teeth. "That is absolutely nothing. You want to talk about apex predator feeding behavior? Let me tell you about Tuesday night at my apartment." The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees. A glimmering from Sector 9 made a distressed clicking sound. Volketh, to his credit, maintained his composure. "Barely. Mr. Webb, perhaps you would care to elaborate? With caution, I might add, for the sake of our more sensitive students." "Sure thing, Prof." Marcus bounded down the stairs with that peculiar human energy that suggested either extreme confidence or complete ignorance of social norms. Possibly both. "See, you are showing us something that eats meat raw. Fine, great, very scary. But here is the thing you all seem to be missing." He reached the podium and tapped the holographic controls with practiced ease. The sand hunter vanished, replaced by nothing. Just a blank screen. "Humans," Marcus said, pausing for dramatic effect that would have made any actor proud, "do not just eat prey animals. We eat the predators too. And yeah, sometimes we eat them raw." The silence that followed was the kind usually reserved for funerals or the moment right before someone realizes they have made a terrible, terrible mistake. The tentacle rose timidly from the middle section. "Surely you jest? Do I look like I am joking?" Marcus asked, and honestly, nobody could tell. Human facial expressions were notoriously difficult to read. "Last week, I had steak tartare. That is raw beef, minced, with a raw egg on top. The week before, sashimi. Raw fish, sliced thin, absolutely delicious. But those are prey animals, right? Boring." He pulled out his personal data pad, fingers flying across the screen. "Let me show you what I had for dinner 3 nights ago." The hologram sprang to life with an image that would haunt the nightmares of xenobiology students for the next 4 semesters. It was a plate, elegantly arranged, containing what appeared to be flesh. Raw flesh. Deep red, glistening, with what humans apparently considered artistic presentation. "This," Marcus announced with the pride of a parent showing off their child's first drawing, "is carpaccio. Made from venison. That is deer meat, very tasty. But the interesting part? The deer I got this from was taken down by a wolf pack. I bought the wolf meat too." You consumed a predator?" Volketh's voice climbed several octaves. "Cook that one, though. Wolf stew is better when it has been simmered for a few hours. Really brings out the flavor." Marcus scrolled through more images. "But if you want to talk about eating predators raw, let me introduce you to a little earth delicacy called stop." The shout came from a student in the 3rd row, a usually quiet morphid named Gilix. "Please, in the name of all that is sane, stop talking." Marcus looked genuinely confused. "What? I have not even gotten to the crocodile yet. Or the shark. Oh man, you should see what we do with shark. There is this Icelandic dish. Class dismissed," Volketh announced weakly. "Everyone out. Now. Except you, Mr. Webb. We need to have a very long conversation about appropriate sharing in academic settings." As 300 students fled the lecture hall in various states of horror and fascination, Marcus shrugged. Humans were good at shrugging. They did it constantly, usually right before doing something that would give other species anxiety disorders. I did not even get to the good part, he muttered, looking at his datapad with genuine disappointment. The emergency meeting of the Station Dietary Safety Council convened exactly 47 minutes after the incident. That was 47 minutes faster than any previous emergency session, which really said something about the collective panic currently sweeping through the academic district. Order. Order, please. Council Chair Threemis banged her appendage against the resonating plate with increasing desperation. Can someone please explain why my afternoon was interrupted by 17 separate reports of students requiring psychological counseling? Volketh stood, his chromatophores flickering through colors that roughly translated to deep embarrassment mixed with existential dread. It was Mr. Webb, chair, the human culinary student. Oh no. Threemis slumped in her seat. What did he do this time? Please tell me he did not bring another one of his lunch containers to the common area. Worse. Volketh activated the meeting room display, showing the still image of Marcus's carpaccio dinner. He told them about his diet, in detail, with visual aids. The council members stared at the image. Someone made a gagging sound. Counselor Brent X, who prided himself on his strong constitution, actually looked away. Is that unprocessed animal tissue? Asked Counselor Ylva, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, and it gets worse. How could it possibly get worse? Volketh pulled up the incident report. He claims humans regularly consume apex predators, raw, for enjoyment. He used the phrase delicious approximately 12 times. He has photographic evidence of at least 30 different species consumed in various states of preparation, ranging from fully cooked to, and I quote, basically still swimming. Threemis rubbed her temple ridges. Being council chair had seemed like such a good idea 3 years ago. Back before the humans joined the galactic community. Back when the most controversial food item they dealt with was whether fermented Glock's paste should be allowed in enclosed spaces. Those were simpler times. Has anyone actually spoken to the human about this? I attempted to, Volketh admitted. He seemed genuinely confused about why everyone was upset. He kept saying something about how it was all normal Earth cuisine and that we should try it sometime. Then he offered to cook for the entire faculty. The room erupted. Voices overlapped in a cacophony of horror, disbelief, and what might have been morbid curiosity from Counselor Ylva, though she would deny it later. Absolutely not. We cannot allow this. But what does wolf taste like? Everyone turned to stare at Ylva. What? She crossed her upper limbs defensively. I am simply curious from a scientific standpoint. It is not as if I want to actually try it. Probably. Maybe. Before the argument could escalate, the council chamber doors burst open. Marcus Webb stood in the doorway, looking entirely too cheerful for someone who had just traumatized 300 students. Hey there. Heard you guys were having a meeting about me. Thought I should probably show up and clear things up. Mr. Webb, Threemis said with the careful tone of someone addressing a particularly unstable explosive device. Perhaps you could help us understand. Why exactly did you feel the need to share such graphic details about your dietary habits? Marcus blinked. Graphic? I was just answering questions about predator feeding behavior. The professor literally asked me to elaborate. I asked you to elaborate with caution. Volketh protested. I was being cautious. I did not even mention the live octopus thing, or the cobra heart shots, or that time in Montana when. He paused, noticing the increasingly pale faces around the table. Okay, I am sensing maybe I should stop talking. That would be appreciated, Threemis managed weakly. Marcus pulled out a chair and sat down uninvited, which was such a human thing to do that nobody even bothered objecting. Look, I think there has been a misunderstanding here. On Earth, food is not just fuel. It is culture. It is art. It is connection. Yeah, we eat stuff that would probably freak you out. But we also prepare it, respect it, honor it. That venison, it lived a good life in the wild. The wolf, hunted legally, used completely, nothing wasted. You are not helping your case, Counselor Brentex muttered. I am just trying to explain that what you see is barbaric, we see is natural. Humans have been omnivores for millions of years. We eat plants, we eat herbivores, we eat carnivores, we even eat things that eat us given half a chance. That is just how we evolved. He leaned forward, his expression surprisingly serious. But here's what I think you are really worried about. You are not scared that I eat predators. You are scared because I am a predator who eats other predators. And that puts me pretty high up on a food chain you did not even know existed. The silence that followed was profound and deeply uncomfortable. Finally, Threemis spoke. Are you threatening us, Mr. Webb? What? No. Marcus looked genuinely shocked. I am a chef, not a monster. I am trying to say that being a predator does not mean being evil. It just means being part of nature. Different nature than yours, maybe, but still valid. He stood up, straightening his jacket. Tell you what, how about I host a cooking demonstration? Fully cooked food, nothing raw, all explained properly. Let people see that human food preparation is actually pretty sophisticated. We do not just tear into things like animals. Well, most of the time. That last part did not help. Yeah, I realized that as I was saying it. The amphitheater was packed. Absolutely, impossibly, ridiculously packed. Every seat filled, students hanging from the rafters, faculty members pretending they were there for legitimate academic reasons and not just morbid curiosity. Even Station Commander Praxis had shown up, claiming he needed to evaluate potential safety hazards. Nobody believed him. Marcus stood center stage behind a fully equipped cooking station that had been hastily assembled by a team of very nervous engineers. He looked completely at ease, like someone who did this sort of thing every day. Which, to be fair, he did. Just usually with fewer alien species watching his every move. All right, everyone. His voice boomed through the sound system. Welcome to Cooking with Marcus, the show where we answer the age-old question. Can a human prepare food without horrifying everyone in a 3-sector radius? A nervous laugh rippled through the crowd. Front row seats had been left conspicuously empty. Just in case, Instructor Volketh sat in the second row, mandated by the council to observe and report. He looked like he was attending his own funeral. Next to him, Counselor Ylva had her recording device out, pretending this was all for research purposes. The notebook on her lap titled Food Diary ? Suggested otherwise. So, I know you all heard about my little presentation the other day. Marcus pulled out a cutting board and several sealed containers. And yeah, I probably could have been more sensitive about it. But today, I am going to show you that human cooking is not just about eating things raw. It is about transformation, taking ingredients and turning them into something greater than the sum of their parts. He opened the first container. Several students flinched. Inside was vegetables. Just vegetables. Normal, plant-based vegetables. The collective sigh of relief was audible. Starting simple today, these are bell peppers, onions, mushrooms, and garlic. All plants. All completely herbivore-friendly. See, I can do normal. He began chopping with practiced efficiency, the knife moving so fast it was almost a blur. Now, on Earth, we have this concept called umami. It is the fifth taste, alongside sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. It is basically the taste of deliciousness itself, and it is found in lots of foods, including mushrooms. Ylva was taking notes. Actual notes. Volketh noticed and tried not to judge. He failed. The key to good cooking is not what you cook, it is how you cook it. Heat, timing, seasoning. These are universal concepts. Oil sizzled in the pan as Marcus added the vegetables. The smell that began wafting through the amphitheater was actually pleasant. Right now, I am caramelizing these onions, breaking down their sugars, creating new flavor compounds through the Maillard reaction. It is basically chemistry. Delicious chemistry. This is not so bad. Someone whispered from the third row. Maybe humans are not completely insane. Marcus grinned, and anyone who knew humans well would have recognized that grin. That was the grin that said things were about to get interesting. Of course, vegetables alone are a bit boring. So let us talk about protein. He reached for another container. Now, before everyone panics, remember what I said. It is about preparation, context, cultural understanding. The container opened. Inside was meat. Obviously meat. Red, raw, and very definitely from something that used to be alive. The front rows leaned back simultaneously, like a wave. This is beef. From a cow. Cows are large herbivores that humans domesticated about 10,000 years ago. We raise them, care for them, and yes, eventually eat them. That is the deal. He held up the meat. Now, I could eat this raw. Some humans do. But today, we are going to do something better. We are going to make a stir-fry. The meat hit the hot pan with a sound that made half the audience jump. Marcus worked quickly, searing the outside, keeping the inside tender. See, the goal here is not destruction. It is transformation. We are using heat to denature proteins, kill any harmful bacteria, and create flavor through caramelization and browning. It smells. Ylva paused, searching for words. Good. It smells amazing. Marcus agreed. And that is the point. Humans did not become apex predators by being brutal. We became apex predators by being smart. We learned to use fire, tools, seasoning, technique. We turned survival into art. He added the vegetables back to the pan, along with a dark sauce that glistened under the stage lights. This is soy sauce, made from fermented soybeans. Fermentation is another human specialty. We take food and let controlled bacteria eat it first. Then we eat the bacteria's leftovers. Which sounds gross when I say it like that, but trust me, it is delicious. Volketh was writing notes despite himself. This was actually educational. Horrifying, but educational. Now comes the controversial part. Marcus reached for a third container. Remember when I mentioned we eat predators? Well, we also eat things from the ocean. Things with teeth. Things that would eat us if given the chance. This is tuna, apex predator of Earth's oceans. Fast, powerful, absolutely terrifying in its natural habitat. He held up a perfectly cut piece of tuna steak. But here is the thing. When you respect your ingredients, when you understand where they come from and how to prepare them properly, it stops being scary. It becomes a meal. It becomes culture. It becomes connection. The tuna went into a separate pan. Marcus seared it for exactly 90 seconds on each side, leaving the center a perfect pink. In Japan, they have been eating raw fish for centuries. It is called sushi, sashimi. It is art. It is tradition. And yes, sometimes that fish is tuna. Raw tuna. But prepared with such skill and care that it becomes something transcendent. He plated everything with movements that were almost dance-like. Vegetables arranged just so. Beef sliced thin and fanned across the plate. Tuna positioned with geometric precision. A drizzle of sauce. A sprinkle of seeds. A garnish of fresh herbs. This, Marcus announced, holding up the finished plate, is what human cooking really is. Not barbarism. Not savagery. But the application of millions of years of evolutionary knowledge combined with thousands of years of cultural refinement. We are not monsters. We are artists who happen to eat meat. The amphitheater was silent. Then, from the back row, someone started clapping. Then another. Then more. Within seconds, the entire room erupted in applause. Marcus bowed, grinning. So who wants to try some? The stampede toward the stage was immediate, enthusiastic, and completely violated at least 7 different safety protocols. Station Commander Praxis made a note to update the regulations. Right after he got his sample. 3 weeks after what would forever be known as the Great Culinary Incident, Marcus Webb found himself sitting in the station's largest conference room. This was not a disciplinary hearing, they had assured him. This was a cultural integration assessment, which sounded an awful lot like a disciplinary hearing wearing a fancy hat. But Marcus had learned to pick his battles. Around the table sat representatives from 12 different species, all looking at him with expressions ranging from cautious curiosity to barely concealed hunger. Counselor Ylva had that gleam in her eye that suggested she had been sampling his cooking. Repeatedly. Mr. Webb, Station Commander Praxis began, shuffling through datapads with his primary manipulators while his secondary ones poured something that looked like coffee, but definitely was not. We have been reviewing the incident reports, survey responses, and medical records from the past few weeks. Marcus tensed. Medical records? Apparently, 17 students attempted to replicate your recipes without proper guidance. The result was food poisoning, minor burns, and 1 case of someone trying to eat raw chicken because, and I quote, the human said raw meat was fine. Praxis fixed him with a stare that suggested he was not amused. We had to issue a station-wide bulletin clarifying that not all raw meat is safe for consumption. Oh man. Marcus rubbed his face. I specifically said that certain preparations require specific safety measures. Multiple times. Yes, well, your species has a remarkable ability to hear what they want to hear and ignore everything else. Volketh spoke up from the corner, where he had been lurking like a particularly judgmental shadow. However, I must admit, The educational value of your demonstration was significant. My xenobiology students scored 15% higher on their recent predator behavior assessment. Apparently, understanding that predation can be cultural rather than purely instinctive provided valuable context. So I am not in trouble. Oh, you are definitely in trouble. Praxis corrected. But we have decided that trouble should be productive. Which brings us to our proposal. He activated the central holo display. A curriculum schedule appeared, with a new entry highlighted in blue. Introduction to Human Culinary Arts. Twice weekly. Mandatory safety briefings. Optional attendance. But given that 463 students have already registered, I think you will have a full class. Marcus stared. You want me to teach cooking classes? We want you to teach cultural understanding through cooking classes, Ylva corrected, looking far too excited about the prospect. Food is universal. Every species eats. But how we eat, what we eat, why we eat it, that is culture. You stumbled, quite literally, into an effective method of cross-species education. Plus, Praxis added with what might have been a smile, hard to tell with his facial structure. It keeps you supervised. After the incident with the fermented shark you tried to bring on station last month, the Hikaral was properly sealed. It ate through the container. We had to evacuate 3 decks. The smell lingered for days. Praxis pulled up another document. You will have a teaching assistant, someone to help manage the cultural sensitivity aspects. Someone who understands both human culture and station protocols. The door behind Marcus opened. He turned to see Amorphid entering, the same student who had shouted during his original presentation. Gilix, if he remembered correctly. The student looked mortified and resigned in equal measure. You volunteered? Marcus asked, surprised. My academic advisor said it would look good on my resume. Cross-species cultural studies, practical application, direct exposure to human behavioral patterns. Gilix sighed, a sound like wind through hollow reeds. Also, I may have accidentally started a black market in your leftover food samples after the demonstration. The ethics board decided community service was appropriate punishment. You sold my stir-fry. For quite a lot of credits, actually. Turns out Flictions have a taste for beef. Who knew? Gilix shuffled to his seat, looking thoroughly defeated. So now I get to spend the next semester making sure you do not accidentally cause another multi-deck evacuation or trigger a philosophical crisis about the nature of predation. I feel like that second one was not entirely my fault. You told a room full of herbivores that you eat things that eat other things. For fun. What did you think would happen? Marcus had to concede the point. Praxis continued. The classes will be held in the new Cultural Exchange Center, which has been equipped with proper ventilation, fire suppression, and trauma counselors on standby. Just in case. You will submit all lesson plans for approval 48 hours in advance. No surprises. No live animals. No fermented anything without explicit written authorization from 3 separate departments. This seems excessive. You try to bring Cobra wine onto a space station. Fair point. The meeting continued for another hour, covering safety protocols, ingredient restrictions, and cultural sensitivity guidelines. Marcus learned that he could not use pork because 6 species found the concept religiously offensive, could not use certain spices because they were mild hallucinogens for Krillians, and absolutely under no circumstances could he mention the human practice of eating insects. Apparently, 3 of the council members were insectoid species, and they were still processing the predator revelation. By the end, Marcus had a teaching schedule, a budget for ingredients, and a growing sense that his simple life as a culinary student had become significantly more complicated. But also, maybe, more interesting. As everyone filed out, Ylva approached him, her recording device conspicuously visible. So, Mr. Webb, about that Japanese fish preparation you mentioned. Sushi was it? I have been researching it, and I have questions. Many questions. Also, I may have acquired some rice and seaweed through entirely legal channels. Could you perhaps? You want me to teach you how to make sushi? For academic purposes only. Obviously. Marcus grinned. That human grin that showed too many teeth and suggested someone was about to make a decision of questionable wisdom. Tell you what, counselor. You help me navigate the bureaucratic nightmare that is apparently my new teaching job, and I will show you why humans think raw fish is worth eating. Deal. Ylva's chromatophores flickered with what might have been excitement or terror. Possibly both. Deal. But if I get food poisoning, I am blaming you. That is fair. As Marcus left the conference room, datapad full of regulations and requirements, he could not help but laugh. He had come to this station to study xenobiology, maybe learn some new cooking techniques from other species. Instead, he had accidentally become a cultural ambassador for humanity's questionable dietary choices. Somewhere behind him, he heard Gillick's groan. "I am never going to live this down. My parents think I am studying advanced morphology, and instead I am going to spend 6 months explaining why humans eat shark." "We eat shark because it is delicious," Marcus called back. "Also because it tried to eat us first. That is important context. That does not make it better." But it kind of did, Marcus thought. It kind of really did. And if he could help a station full of herbivores and peaceful omnivores understand that humans were not monsters, just a different kind of intelligent life with different evolutionary pressures and different cultural contexts, well, that was worth a few bureaucratic headaches. Plus, the look on everyone's faces when he finally got approval to make bacon was going to be absolutely priceless.